I want you to close your eyes and imagine that you're at the top of your field. Whatever that may be, whatever your passion is, whatever your dream job is, imagine that you're at the top of that field. Now imagine that you're offered life-changing money. I'm talking tens of millions of dollars, even hundreds of millions of dollars, but you would be doing less important and less prestigious work. So you wouldn't be doing the work that you have dreamed of, but you're getting paid a lot more money. Would you take it? Would you do it? Do you think you would do it? Professional golfers were faced with a similar decision a few years ago when Live Golf was announced. They had the choice of staying on the PGA Tour or going to Live Golf for a lot more money, but probably not as important or not as prestigious events. I followed golf for years. I've written multiple papers on Live in general and the whole story there. I think it's really fascinating. I've kind of been following the whole thing since it really started in 2020. There are a couple trains of thought, but since there's been the news of a possible merger, it hasn't happened yet, but a possible merger, the main question that comes up is, do you think Live guys should be allowed back on the PGA Tour? That's what we're going to be talking a little bit about today. So to give you a little bit of background of the whole thing, just what's happened, show you this right here. So this right here is Greg Norman. He's one of the best golfers in the world. Well, used to be one of the best golfers in the world, is retired now. He announced in 2020 that he was coming out with a new tour called Live Golf, and it was backed by this guy right here, a Saudi Arabian who runs an oil company, and he was going to be the one providing all the money, but he was going to be the founder, CEO, chairman, all that stuff. He was just going to be kind of the bank for it. Came as a shock to this guy, who's Jay Monahan. He's the chairman and commissioner of the PGA Tour, and this is Rory McIlroy right here, who used to be the number one golfer in the world for a while, and he's probably third or fourth right now. But it came as a big shock to these two guys because it's kind of out of the blue. No one's really expecting it. It created a kind of a war between the PGA Tour and Live Golf. They have a bunch of new rules. They have teams now over there. They have 3-day events instead of 4. They encourage heckling and cheering versus it's pretty quiet over here. But it also came as a shock because the PGA Tour has kind of been the only tour around for a century. Other people have tried and create new tours, but it hasn't really worked, and they've fizzled out in a year or two. The PGA Tour finally has some real competition. So this is the top 10 money list for the PGA Tour last year. So number 1 is Scotty Scheffler, number 1 golfer in the world consensus for probably 2 years now. He made $11.33 million. Number 10 on this list is Billy Horschel. He made $4.7 million last year. And then Rory McIlroy, the guy I just showed you, came in at 4th. He made $6.52 million. So this is a lot of money, right? No one's denying that. It's a lot of money. But when you look at this is how much the Live guys were offered just to go over there. Not even if they win tournaments, just to go there. So Tiger Woods, probably the most recognizable golfer in the last 50 years, was offered 645 million pounds, translates to about $800 million. And all the rest of the guys, Ian Poulter, who's 7th, was offered 24 million pounds, and he's not even good anymore. He used to be a really good golfer probably 15, 20 years ago, but now he's not really that good anymore. He's kind of getting older, kind of reaching the end of his career, not really that good anymore, but he's still offered over double what Scotty Scheffler made last year. So yeah, it's life-changing money for those guys, and they had a decision to make, especially the guys at the end of their careers who probably weren't going to win that much on the PGA Tour anymore. They had a decision to make on whether to take the money and play out the rest of their career over there or stay loyal to the PGA Tour that they've been with for years. So no one was really sure what was going to happen until Dustin Johnson, who was the world number 1 at the time, or number 2 at the time, took the money, went to Live, and that created kind of a snowball effect. More guys went over: Brooks Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau, Ian Poulter, Sergio Garcia, who are, Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau are the 4th and 5th best golfers in the world right now. So, they got some really, really good golfers with some really big names and some high, like, watchability value, where people are going to want to tune in and watch those guys play golf. So the two groups only met at majors. So there's 4 majors every year: the Masters, the U.S. Open, the Players Champion, or the PGA Championship, and the British Open. And since these aren't PGA sanctioned events, it's just, if you're one of the best golfers in the world, you're going to be invited. They don't care whether you're LIV, PGA, whatever. If you're one of the best, you're going to be there. So these two groups, the PGA guys and the LIV guys, they met at these majors, and there was some clear turmoil, and even more when Brooks Koepka, who went to LIV, won the 2021 U.S. Open. It kind of proved that, like, oh, these LIV guys, like, they're here to, like, LIV is here to stay. Like, this LIV is just as good, if not better, than the PGA. No one really knows why. I'm sure we will eventually, but right now, no one really knows. There was a merger announced, or it was proposed, not announced, but proposed, to join the PGA and the LIV back together again, to have the best players in the world kind of under the same umbrella. So in my opinion, well, there was 2 trains of thought. On one hand, the players who left, they got a huge payday, and they just get to come back in, a year. Like, that's not fair to the PGA guys who stayed loyal the whole time. But at the same time, like, on the other hand, it was, everybody had a choice. The PGA guys didn't have to stay there. They could have taken the money. It's not the LIV guys' fault that the PGA guys didn't take the money. So there's 2, they're kind of butting heads there. So the main question now is, how do we move forward? How do we get back to just golf and move forward and put all this past, behind us? So in my opinion, there are 2 possible next steps. You have to let the LIV guys back, in my opinion. You have to let them back. If it's really about golf and growing the game of golf, you got to let the LIV guys back on tour, so we have the best players in the world playing under the same league, and we get that as fans. The first solution would be you allow the LIV guys back, but you punish them a little bit. So whether that's, you don't allow them to compete for money for a certain number of events, you don't allow them to compete in majors for a year, or you just suspend them for a certain amount of time. Maybe some guys get more than others, depending on, what the circumstances were when they went to LIV. The second option, which in my opinion is the better one, would be you allow the LIV guys back, but instead of punishing them, you reward the PGA guys for staying loyal to the PGA. You give them double their winnings, you have them start under par in certain tournaments, or you just give them a percentage of what they would have made at LIV, just to kind of level the playing field and make those guys feel like, you're going to be compensated for staying loyal to the PGA. So you got to put yourself in the shoes of both sides. As a player who stayed loyal to the PGA, how would you feel? Would you want LIV players punished? Would you care? Or do you just want to get back to golf? And as a LIV guy, you now have hundreds of millions of dollars. Do you really care if you get punished? At the same time, a lot of those LIV guys are saying, I don't owe the PGA anything. Like, I get they gave me my start, but I don't owe them loyalty. I did what was best for me and my family. I got hundreds of millions of dollars, so my great grandchildren don't ever have to work again. Like, that was a smart decision. So both sides have arguments, but in my opinion, if it's truly about growing the game of golf and doing what's best for the game in decades and centuries to come, LIV players need to be allowed back. You can't just banish those guys for the rest of their life. So in conclusion, there's a lot of controversy, but LIV players need to be allowed back. I get that, they may have turned their back a little bit. They may have not stayed loyal, but they did what they felt was best in the time. And the one thing that I would ask you to do as a listener, they've talked about allowing fans to vote, have a percentage say on whether LIV guys should be allowed back on the PGA Tour, and propose ideas on what that should look like. And I would ask you to vote yes. Vote that those guys are allowed back, And if you want to do any research for yourself, you can look at, there are plenty of interviews that you can read. There's a Netflix series, it's called Full Swing. It does a really good job taking you behind the scenes, giving you in-depth interviews with, Rory McIlroy, Jay Monahan, Greg Norman, pretty much everybody, and giving you full access to behind the scenes to see what actually happened. So it's been a long road to get to here, but I believe if we work together, we can get professional golf back to where it deserves to be. Thanks.